Far too often in society, we are stuck in this position, and this really gets stuck. So I'm going to be showing you a couple different options. Okay? Hi everybody, this is Dr. Scott Jahn from DocScottJahn.com. And today what we're going to be going over is some postural exercises. Okay? But before we go over that, there's a couple of things we want to make sure that we take care of first. Number one, this should not be a substitution for medical advice. There are many different postural distortions, and you should be evaluated by somebody in the healthcare industry that has been trained on posture. Secondly, we're going to be going over some of the major components to posture. Now, there's a lot of different aspects of it, so we can't cover everything, but we're going to cover the major ones. Okay? Number three is we just recently did a webinar called Mind Your Posture. I'm going to stick a link down below. So it's important to check that out, because just by doing some exercises, if you don't address some of the lifestyle causes of why your posture is distorted, you're just going to be kind of like painting over rust. It's going to come back. And lastly, addressing postural issues with exercise without addressing the underlying cause, which would be what we call a subluxation, or when the spinal bones are misaligned, you're going to be, your results are going to be mixed, right? They're not going to be as good as they are, because you need to get that alignment taken care of first. All right? So without further ado, let's get started. So the first exercise we're going to do is we're going to start with some stretching, right? Because we want to do stretching before we do some strength training. Okay? So we're going to start with the upper body, and we're going to be addressing something called upper cross syndrome. And again, check out my webinar on postural correcting posture, right? Because upper cross syndrome, you basically have forward rounded shoulders, you have tightness in the chest, you have weakness in the back here, and you get what's called a forward head posture like this. Now, this forward head posture can be very detrimental to the nervous system, because you lose this important arc in the neck right here. So we're going to be working on correcting that. First exercise is going to be to stretch something called your trapezius muscle. Now, the trapezius muscle attaches up here, and it basically goes down here, and it runs down the back. We're going to be addressing the upper portion of the trapezius muscle. So what you're going to do is you're going to gently grab your head, tilt it to the side. Now remember, it attaches to the skull, so we want to separate the skull from the attachment here. So as you gently pull it to the side, you're going to turn towards the side you're stretching. And you just turn until you feel a nice gentle stretch. You can take this arm here and push down towards the ground to further deepen the stretch. You're going to hold it for 15 to 30 seconds. And then you're going to do the other side. Okay. The second stretch we're going to do, again for the muscles back here that cause that forward head posture, is something called the levator scapula. And that muscle attaches from the top of the scapula up to the skull. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to tilt to the side, okay, but this time we're going to look the opposite direction, and because it's attached to the scapula, you want that scapula to move. So when we're down here, we're going to bring the scapula up like that, okay, and you just pull gently till you feel a nice stretch, and again hold that for 30 seconds. That'll cover those muscles here. So the next thing we want to address is bringing that head from that forward head posture back over the shoulders. So we're going to do this by a head retraction. I'll show you this from the side. I like to put my hands on my chin just to guide me. We're not going to be pushing with our fingers, but we want to make sure that the head's not going up or going down. So we're just going to bring the head back this way and forward. Your hand, again, just a guide to make sure that the head stays in a neutral position. Okay? Sometimes it helps to do this against the wall so you can feel your head hitting the back of the wall, or gently touching the back of the wall, I should say. It's a helpful guide. Once we are comfortable retracting the head, we can add resistance, right? A ThoroBand of some sort. We can put that right in the back of the head. And again, retract, hold for maybe 5 seconds, and relax. It's going to work on what's called the deep cervical flexors. Okay, and it's going to help bring that head back over the shoulder and start to bring this curve back. Okay, this next stretch we're going to do is for the pectorals. Right, we talked about upper cross syndrome. We're like this, usually because we're on a computer, we're doing work on our iPads or iPhones, so we want to stretch this out and bring everything back. So find a door frame, or you can use the corner of a room. Bring your arms to a 90-degree angle. Okay, you're going to take 1 foot, step forward, and you're going to just gently lunge until you feel a stretch in your chest. Okay, you'll feel a stretch across here. Now you can vary the position, move the arms up, it'll get a little bit lower in the chest. You can move the arms down, it'll get a little bit higher in the chest. So you can do it in 3 positions, right? 1 from the low, medium, and high. Okay, and again, lunge forward, 30 seconds, and relax. Now, in my webinar, I discussed a different type of stretch called a PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. It's a fancy word that just means that the muscle's going to relax after it's had a contraction. All right, so I'm going to show you that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our arms here again, and as I gently lunge forward, I'm going to isometric, iso means without movement, bring my arms this way. So I'm going to contract my pectorals by pulling my elbows, and I'm going to use about 20-25% of my strength. We don't need a lot of strength, just enough to contract the muscles. I'm going to contract the muscles, hold that for 10 seconds, relax, and you go a little deeper in the stretch. Again, after about 10-15 seconds, contract the muscle. So I'm contracting this way. 5-10 seconds, relax. You go a little deeper in the stretch. Okay, that'll get you a much better stretch. Okay, so now we've addressed stretching here, that cross, or that upper cross syndrome. Now we want to address this part. Far too often in society, we are stuck in this position, and this really gets stuck. So I'm going to be showing you a couple different options. Okay, just pick one that works well for you. We're going to start on our knees, and we're going to go into a yoga prayer stretch. Okay, the arms come out like this, and you just sit back down on your heels. Okay, it's going to stretch this area. Okay, and allow the lats of the back to open up. All right, and hold that for 30 seconds. Okay. If you want to do something a little bit deeper, you can find a couch or any kind of area. You can use a chair if you want. Again, arms go on here, you come back on the heels, and just bring your upper torso down so the arms come up. Now look at that stretch a little deeper. Okay? Now, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to try and create some mobility in that area. So we're going to go into all fours, and I'm going to do something called cat-camel. When we come into all fours, we want to make sure that the shoulder is over the wrist. We don't want to be back in this position or too far forward. We just want to be 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle here. What you're going to do is you're going to round your back as much as you can, tuck your pelvis under, and then drop and look up. Okay? And we're going to inhale as we come up, round the pelvis under, tuck your chin, then exhale, drop pelvis all the way down, create an arch in the low back, and look up. And you're going to do about 10-15 of these. Nice and slow. Always stay in a comfortable range. We don't want to cause any kind of pain when we're doing this. This will be creating a lot of mobility in the mid-back. Okay, from here, we want to do a little bit other mobility. So try that one. If that one's not the best thing fit for you, try this one. Okay. What you're going to do, you're going to sit on your heels. You're going to bring your hands out in front of you like this. So you're going to use your hand as a guide, as the pivot point. Right here is my guide. Take the other hand, I'm going to put it behind your back. Okay. And already I'm a little bit off. Right? I don't want to be sitting back. I don't want to be up like that. So my hand's here. Other hand back here, and what you're going to do is you're going to turn. Okay? By sitting down, we're locking our hips in our lumbar area, and we're trying to get motion in our thoracics. You're not going to get a lot of motion because you have ribs here that kind of limit the range of motion, but we do want to open that up and get motion so that we don't get these fibrous adhesions to the spine and cause motion to just cease. All right, so we'll go again. Down here, hand behind the head, turn, and back down. Do 10 each side. Turn, and back down. Now let's address flexibility for lower body. So just like we have an upper cross syndrome, we have a lower cross syndrome, right? And for further explanation, again, go refer back to my webinar that will be linked to it in the description. So lower cross syndrome, think of an X, okay? We want to stretch certain muscles and strengthen certain muscles. The first muscle we're going to stretch is our hamstrings. And you can do that in a number of different ways. Easiest way to do that, if you don't have a back issue that's going to cause a problem, you can keep your knees straight, but you want it just a slight bend. You don't want them locked out, but slight bend. And just reach forward, down to touch your toes, let gravity assist you, and gravity will pull you down, okay? Now, if you have any kind of back injury or any kind of low back pain, this probably is not the best way to do it. The better way to do it would be to sit down on the ground. I'm going to use this as a guide. Okay, want to bend one leg, keep the other leg straight. Now, if you can reach your toes, great, help pull you forward. If you can't, you can use a towel. I have a TheraBand here. I'm going to put it behind my foot, and I'm going to stretch this way. Now, when you're doing this, we want to get our hamstring to stretch. So the more you dorsiflex or bring your toes towards your head, the less hamstring you're going to get because your calf is going to limit the range of motion. So I would suggest putting that a little bit lower under the arch of the foot so that you don't overly flex the foot and you can get more stretch in the hamstring. Okay? And then you just gently pull forward, hold for 30 seconds again. Right? Do one side, then do the other. You can conversely do this on your back if that is too much for you. Again, it works very well if you have a rope or some kind of a band that you can put up behind your foot. And I would do this in two positions. One being just to pull it back like this, hold for 30 seconds. Now this gets your hamstring. Now this is going to get it more behind the knee, right, with the insertion point. We want to also stretch it deeper towards the origin or where it connects to the pelvis. So after we've stretched here, what we do is bend the knee and bring it close to the torso, and now pull the leg this way. Now we're stretching more in the deeper part of the hamstring of the belly. All right. A couple things to note is you want to make sure that the other leg is not lifting off the ground. If I stretch this too much, if I have a tight hip flexor on the other side, you can see it's going to pull it off the ground. Right. So we want to make sure that that leg stays on the ground when we're doing our stretch. Okay. The next stretch we're going to do is for what's called our hip flexors. Remember we talked about lower cross, right? Bottom part of the X, upper part of the X. Hip flexor is a muscle that goes like this. So it connects to the lumbars and to the lumbar discs, and it connects to the femur. So a lot of times when people are doing sit-ups or leg lifts, they think they're working their abs, they're really working their hip flexors. But they'll feel a burn in their stomach because the hip flexor is primarily, the belly of it is right in the stomach. But we want to stretch that muscle. So what you're going to do is, it's always good to have a mat because it can be a little sore on the knee. And if the mat isn't cushioned enough, you can get a little towel. You're going to be in a 90-degree angle on the other side. Okay? It's important to be careful of the low back on this one. All right? What you're going to do is just gently lean forward. Now, people have a tendency to do something like this and hurt their low back. But make sure you stay a nice 90-degree angle and you're just dragging that leg behind you. Okay? That's going to get a stretch in that hip flexor. Okay? You can do it from a standing position as well. Come forward, bring that back leg there. And what you're going to do in this instance is basically just sit down on this hip. Okay? It's a little bit of a feel to do it this way, right? Because some people will kind of do like that, which is incorrect. What you want to do is sit down from here. Okay? And you can bring your leg a little bit forward. Again, get that stretch here. Hold for 30 seconds. Make sure you don't open up the hips. And there we go. A couple more muscles to stretch in this pelvis area. Next one is going to be the rectus femoris. Your quadricep or your thigh muscle has 4 muscles. The rectus femoris is the one we're going to stretch because that one tends to get tight. The other ones tend to get a little bit weaker. What we're going to do is lie on our side. Now you can put a pillow or your arm under here to support your head. I suggest bending the bottom leg to protect the low back. If you keep the bottom leg straight, you're going to get too much arch in the low back and could cause injury. Bend the bottom leg, grab the upper leg like that. Make sure that the knee stays in proper alignment with the hip. A lot of times problems happen when people stretch like this. We want to make sure we stay here. And you're just going to bring it back as far as you can. And when you get it at least parallel to the body, bring the heel towards your glute. Okay? So if you want to get more of the origin, the top part of it, you can lessen the angle here. And again, a towel would probably be a good way to do that, or you can just bring your arm down a little bit lower. Now I opened this portion up, and I can get a little bit deeper. And then start to pull back here, and you'll really feel it in your quad. Final muscle we're going to stretch is our piriformis, right? It's a deep hip external rotator. The way we do that is we bend the knee 90 degrees. One hand goes on the knee, the other hand goes on the ankle. Again, if we're not that flexible, we can use our towel, our rope, bring it on the foot, and bring this knee towards the opposite shoulder, and then you're going to turn the leg. So it's an external rotator, but funny thing happens with this muscle. Once we go to a 90-degree angle, it turns into an internal rotator. So we want to externally rotate the hip, right? So 90 degrees, bring it towards opposite shoulder, I'm sorry. Okay, and then rotate that way. Okay, and you should feel it stretch right in there. So that covers the major muscle groups that we're going to stretch. Now we're going to move on to some strength. What we're talking about is more of a stability type strength, stabilizer muscles. We're not talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, how much can I lift strength, okay? So a lot of these exercises we're going to be doing don't really have too much movement involved in them, all right? They're just stabilizing or isometrically contracting muscles, okay? So we're going to start with the upper body. So we've already addressed the isometric or extension exercise for the deep neck flexors. Now what we're going to work on is the mid and lower traps. And we're going to use a small dumbbell. So this exercise is going to be for the mid and lower traps. Again, we talk upper cross syndrome, where like this, mid and lower traps are down in here. It's going to help pull you up and bring you upright, okay? So you don't need a lot of weight because they're not very strong muscles. They're stabilizing muscles. So we have a 2-pound weight. What we're going to do is find the edge of a bed, a couch, or something like that. Something a little firm would be best. You're going to lie on it. You're going to take your thumb towards the ceiling. Okay? It's best if it's a little higher so you can kind of hang it down. But we'll work what we got. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up to 90 degrees. Just like that. So this works mid-trap and rhomboids. 10 to 15 here. And then you're going to go up to a diagonal and do it that way. And this works more the lower trap. Strengthening the lower body, okay, for stabilizers, there's 2 major stabilizers. One is called your transverse abdominis. Now everybody knows the rectus abdominis, that 6-pack that we all love so much. But the transverse abdominis acts like a belt. So there's going to be no movement involved in this. It's going to be just a isometric contraction. Again, I'm going to show you several different exercises you can do. The first one is just to get a feel of the muscle, right? It's easiest to do it when you're lying on your back, so you don't have to worry about gravity or anything else. So we're going to go on our back, keep our legs bent, and you're going to put your hands on the side of your abdomen right here, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to do what's called a Kegel exercise. Basically what that is, the best way to describe it is if you had to urinate and you stop it midstream, right? You can use those pelvic floor muscles to contract. When you contract your pelvic floor muscles, your transverse abdominis also contracts. So you put your hands here and you contract it. Try and feel for contraction here. We want to keep this soft. We don't want to contract our rectus abdominis because we're working on our transverse. So contract your Kegels and you'll feel contraction. You can contract it and hold it for 5 seconds and relax. Okay, so you're going to do about 10 of those. Contract, hold 5 seconds, relax. Contract, hold 5 seconds, relax. And then as you start to get familiar with it, you can contract deeper, 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 relax. Okay, and do several different exercises that way. Right? Our goal is to create a neuromuscular pathway to be efficient. This way, when we're standing, when we're sitting, these muscles will stay contracted and protect us. Okay? Once we get familiar with this, and it could take a couple weeks to get familiar with this because it's not a natural muscle that we contract on a regular basis. Once we're able to do this, do it standing, do it on all fours, do it in different positions. And after we get that, we're going to go to a plank. Okay? Now the plank is going to be an isometric contraction of that same area. Come down here and contract from here. And again, you have to be familiar with being able to contract that transverse abdominis. Make sure we don't sag the body down or cheat by bringing it up like that. But keep it in a nice even position and make sure we contract that transverse abdominis. We can make this harder by using something like this. And now this becomes harder because we have to stabilize ourselves. And we just hold it, same thing. We can put this under our feet, just change it up. We want to keep changing it up, keep the body guessing, right, to make ourselves more efficient at being able to contract and utilize those muscles. So the next muscle we need to address is our glutes, our butt. Right? The reason why is because muscles work in synergy with each other, and if you have an overly contracted hamstring, a tight hamstring, it's going to shut your glutes off. So now every time we take a step, the glute is supposed to pull our body forward. Now, if the glute is turned off, the hamstring and the low back are going to have to overly work to try and keep you in a proper gait. And that's when people get injured because they're using muscles that are not designed to do a specific movement because other muscles can't. Right? So we want to make sure we can engage our glute muscles so that we can get a good walking position. Okay? So we're going to start on our back. Legs bent. So the easiest way to do this, nice wide base, arms out, and you're just going to basically just lift up, okay, just like that. That's going to engage your glute. Now this becomes very easy, very quickly. You can just bring your arms in here, and now we've made it more narrow, which makes it a little bit harder to stabilize. And again, you should be able to contract your transverse abdominis to keep this area nice and tight while you do it. If this gets too easy, we do it with one leg at a time. Still gets too easy at our unstable surface. We want to use the side that has the ridges on it because the ridges are going to stimulate the receptors in the bottom of your foot, okay, which is going to engage your lower back muscles. So make sure it's in the proper position, foot here and up like that. Okay, we've got one more exercise to go through, and that's for the lower back muscles. Okay, and what we're going to do on this one, it's called bird dog. Okay, we're going to go back to our all fours position. The easiest way to do it, again, contract those transverse abdominis like we did earlier, and arm raise. Okay, you do 10 one side, 10 the other side, 10 one side, 10 the other side. After you're able to make sure your core stays in place and we're not opening the legs up, we're not reaching across, we're good control, then you do opposite arm, opposite leg, 10 times. Okay, everything is designed for keeping this nice and stable. So we're going to engage our lower back muscles as well as our transverse abdominis while we do this exercise. Just like that, 10 times. Okay, so there you have it. There's our basic routine for trying to correct our posture. All right? If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as possible. If you'd like to be evaluated, you can reach me through my website, DocScottJahn.com. All right? So if you like this, you found some value in it, please like and subscribe to this video and share it with your friends. Right? The more people that know about this, the more people we can get off drugs and get a healthy, happy lifestyle. And remember, life is better when you're healthy. Thanks. We'll see you next time.